I got day 10 started at the University Inn in Minneapolis, which is right next to the University of Minnesota Twin Cities, where I had walked around the previous night. So after getting up and getting myself ready, I went to the sculpture garden. Then headed to the downtown area, kind of central Minneapolis.
Y que sobra quien me quiera, pero ninguna me importa. Solo pienso en ti, morena, mi corazón te he escogido. Y llorar no quiero verlo, el pobre mucho ha sufrido. Ahora tienes que quererlo. ¿Qué voy a hacer si de veras te quiero? Ya te adoré y olvidarte no puedo. ¿Qué voy a hacer si de veras te quiero? Ya te adoré y olvidarte no puedo.
One of the things I thought was interesting about the downtown west area and kind of the central Minneapolis area was that across a lot of the buildings, and particularly the commercial buildings, there are these walkway bridges, so you can on the second or third floor, so you can get from one building to the other without ever going outside. And these are so common actually and I'll show you some pictures of these, so common that you can go for a very long time within Minneapolis without ever going outside, which I guess is a big deal in the winter when it can get very cold. And from there I walked up towards the warehouse district to the Mississippi River. And then moved on to towards downtown east, where I ran a little bit. I went by the Mill Ruin Park, the Endless Bridge, a bunch of areas around there, and then ran back by Bohemian Flats, and then wrapped things up in Minneapolis at the Minneapolis Institute of Arts. Minneapolis was fine. I wasn't super impressed. I think my favorite area was between downtown east and the river, which was the Mill Ruin Park district, and actually the National Park Service has a little area there where you can check out some of the ruins from the old mills, and the lock system, and some other old industrial areas around there, which I think was super cool because Minneapolis grew up as a port city on the upper part of the Mississippi River, and you got to see some of the remnants of that that are still around today. I also liked the Minneapolis Institute of Arts a lot. That had a section on the Prairie Style, which I talked about previously in the video, leaving Chicago, when I talked about the Roby House. So the Prairie Style was an architectural style that sort of culminated in Frank Lloyd Wright, but was started earlier by Louis Sullivan, and it was basically about not imitating European styles and creating an organic American architecture, particularly one for this sort of prairie setting, one that emphasized horizontality and opened itself up to the land. Actually, in that Prairie Style exhibit, they had an architectural model of the Little House, which is a Frank Lloyd Wright house, and they also had a recreation of one of the rooms. And what I thought was really interesting about it, and one of the things that's most characteristic of the Prairie Style about it, is that the lot for the house included a hill, and Frank Lloyd Wright, instead of choosing to build the house on top of the hill, that would have been common in really a lot of styles of architecture, but Frank Lloyd Wright chose to build a house into the hill. So that way it was integrated with the landscape, and it felt like a part of the land rather than something merely sitting on top of it. They also had a room on the art of the American West, and I'll include some pictures of those paintings and talk about those a little bit. These next two are kind of interesting because they exhibit sort of man's relationship with nature in the American West, and that sort of the tensions therein. And the first one is a sculpture of a bronco breaker. So basically, this was a guy that was supposed to take wild horses and tame them so that people could actually ride them. And it's interesting because it's showing like his challenge with taming this horse that's not meant to be tamed or domesticated or anything like that. It's supposed to be wild. And the second one is a painting from an artist who liked to depict sort of man and the wilderness in uncomfortable tensions, and it's a bear eating from this cream of wheat box. So there's no actual real human presence, there's just the indication of one because of that cream of wheat box. Now I'm on the road to Duluth, Minnesota, which is a town in Minnesota on Lake Superior. It's actually the westernmost Atlantic seaport because you can still access the Atlantic Ocean through all the Great Lakes. It's pretty cool. So I'm going to stay there for the night at a hostel. I'm pretty exhausted from the day and just the accumulation of 10 days of this trip so far. So I'm going to vegetate for a while and try and figure out what I'm doing in the Badger Waters. I have no plans for tomorrow night. I think it's really confusing to try and plan backpacking in the Badger Waters. It's really made for canoeing, so I'm making things a little bit more difficult for myself by choosing not to do that. But I'm a little bit nervous about doing that by myself, and it would cost money to rent a canoe and all that. So I'm just going to try and either backpack and camp for a night or just do some day hikes and figure out some places to stay around there.